It's obvious they are well prepared for a situation they can predict, but what they lack is resourcefulness when faced with the unpredictable.
NANI?!
How is it going, everybody? And welcome back to another My Hero Academia manga review. This week's chapter that we will be talking about and discussing is chapter 175, entitled Morning of the Big Day. And the big day is finally here, ladies and gentlemen. The Culture Festival is about to begin. We are 30 minutes away until the doors open and everybody starts preparing to do their performances. And Class 1A is 1 hour and 30 minutes away from their concert performance. I am really looking forward to seeing what Horikoshi has in store, not only for Class 1A's performance, but I also am hoping that we get to see the other departments and the other classes and what they do during the Culture Festival. That's what I'm really looking forward to. So mainly this week's chapter was the final piece of setup that we needed just to build up to the Culture Festival. I've really enjoyed the setup chapters that Horikoshi has put us through leading up to the festival, but I am really glad that this is the final one, and by next chapter, we will be knee-deep into the festival. I cannot wait. But just to talk about this chapter broadly, I did really enjoy this chapter. I thought it was a fun read, very enjoyable, but I would say that this was just a good chapter of My Hero Academia. It was mainly used just for the final pieces of setup that Horikoshi needed to lead into the Culture Festival. But one aspect that I really did enjoy that Horikoshi threw into this chapter was adding in the time codes throughout this chapter, because as you're reading and you're going through the pages, you see a time pop up and you're like, oh wow, we're almost to the Culture Festival. You read a few more pages, another time pops up, and we're that much closer. It just builds that anticipation within you and starts to get you excited, because we are all looking forward to the start of this Culture Festival, what Horikoshi has planned, and what the wild cards of Gentle and La Brava are going to do during this arc. So just having those time codes just remind me of like the 24 countdown, where you're just hearing the ticking go by, and you're just like, I'm getting excited. I just can't wait for this Culture Festival to begin, and just to see what all these students have to perform, but also whether or not Gentle and La Brava will succeed in infiltrating. But I'm really excited to talk about the contents of this week's latest chapter, and this chapter was mainly divided into 3 main sections, where you have the first section, which I kind of view as the simplest section of this chapter. It mainly pertains to Class 1A walking through, practicing, and going through the final preparations that they need for their dance team and for the band, so that way they can prepare the night before the festival officially begins. There really isn't too much to talk about within that section, but it's the other 2 sections, the morning of the festival starting. This is where it gets interesting. We see Deku receive his newly upgraded gauntlets from Mei Hatsume. I always love when Mei Hatsume appears in the chapter, so with her appearance in here, this is a good chapter in my book, and I love the look of those new gauntlets. I'm really looking forward to seeing Deku use those in the future, but it's that last section in this chapter that I think should have everybody hyped right now and wondering what is going to go down in the next chapter, because we see Deku accidentally run into Gentle and La Brava, and Gentle was not expecting to run into a UA student as they were making their way to infiltrate UA. So as we can see right now, Gentle's plan is not going according to plan. So if you know the cardinal rule within storytelling, that whenever you see a character in a movie, TV show, or even in a comic explain their plan from beginning to end, like Gentle did last chapter, that plan will not go according to plan. Expect that plan to go off the rails.
There are only 4 rules you need to remember. Make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plan.
I am very curious to see where this fight and altercation between Deku and Gentle is going to go, but we'll talk a little bit more about this particular section a little bit later. For right now, I just want to rewind back to the beginning of this chapter and talk about everything that transpired leading up to Deku running into Gentle and La Brava. Because at the beginning of this chapter, we see all of our students putting forth the final preparations that they need in order to be ready for the festival tomorrow. We see Hado running through her final movements for her Miss Congeniality pageant. Class 1B is going through their final scenes for their Romeo, Juliet, and Prisoner of Azkaban play. Mei Hatsume is just doing her thing, tinkering away at her babies. And we even see Jiro hard at work, writing out the music within the notebooks for everybody in the band to make sure that they are well prepared for the performance tomorrow. And on the next page, you even see Ashido running everybody within Class 1A on the dance team through their final rehearsal to make sure that their dance performance goes off without a hitch. I have really enjoyed having all of this set up and build up leading up to the Culture Festival, with all of these students practicing and really gearing up for their performances during the festival. And Horikoshi right now kind of has a lot of pressure to deliver upon a majority of these performances, because I think with all of this build up, it would be really disappointing if we do get into the middle of the festival, it gets interrupted, and we don't get to see the performances of Class 1A, Class 1B, Hatsume, or Hado. We want to see these performances unfold because these characters so far for the past couple chapters have trained their butts off. I want to see what they have in store for us, and a lot of them are generally excited for the festival. Look at Kaminari and Mineta running around in this panel. At 11:35 at night, they are just so full of energy, they cannot sleep. They're like, I can't sleep. I can't wait for the festival. I can really relate to that panel because I have felt like that, you know, anticipating an event the very next day that I have practiced for. I'm gearing up for it. I'm nervous and excited at the same time. So I'm really hoping we do get to see a majority of these performances, and I'm hoping Horikoshi can deliver upon that because I am putting myself in the shoes of a majority of these students, and I want to see what they have in store. So to end off the first section of this chapter, we have Deku and Aoyama tending to all of their support gear that they're going to be using to hoist Aoyama up into the air. That way he can become a magnificent disco ball. But as Deku is looking at the rope, he realizes that with practicing with it so much, it's become frayed. And if they did use that during their performance, odds are Aoyama would just fall down on top of the performance and most likely hurt himself really, really bad. So Deku, the next morning before the festival starts, has to go out to a store and get some new rope. But Kaminari and a few of the other students are like, wait, are stores even open that early? Because the Culture Festival starts at 9, we are on at 10. But they end up suggesting something that makes a lot of sense. It's like, why don't we just ask Yayorozu to make us some rope with her quirk? Which I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you ask her? But Ashido's like, well, she's not your tool factory just to create any items you wish, which I'm like, I guess that makes sense, like she can't use her quirk willy-nilly, but I do like when Kaminari chimes in and he's like, wait a minute, you guys use me as a battery charger, so I do like that little joke added in there. So as we end off this section, Deku is tasked with getting rope the very next morning, but before he can go get his rope, he actually has 6:30 training session with All Might, which, my God, that is early. So while All Might and Deku are continuing with their training, Mei Hatsume once again appears out of the bushes, covered in filth this time, but presents Deku with his new support gear. Some new gloves, some new gauntlets, which I gotta say, I really do like the designs of the gloves, but I am wondering what is on the knuckles. Are those like air pressure currents that he can control while he's using 20% of One For All? I really want to see these babies in action, but we really don't get to see that, so I'm hoping next chapter, while Deku is fighting, we get to see these babies in action. But I kind of feel bad for All Might because he's looking at the support gear and he's like, wow, support gear really has come a long way since I used to use them back in my prime. So All Might's feeling a little bit jealous about how far technology and support gear has come for Deku, because All Might would have loved to use this type of equipment, I bet, back in his prime. Mei ends up leaving All Might and Deku to their training, and Deku ends up training with his new gauntlets for about an hour, but that hour of training ends up putting Deku a little bit behind schedule to the point where he has to rush out to the nearest convenience store in order to buy the rope. He does eventually find it, but on his way back to UA, he ends up getting distracted and stopped by 2 potential infiltrators. He ends up running into Gentle and La Brava. This interaction between Deku and Gentle really goes to reinforce just how smart of a character Deku actually is. Because with all the setup chapters we had leading up to the Culture Festival, coming to learn more about Gentle and La Brava, and seeing Deku acquire certain pieces of information about Golden Tip Tea, about Gentle's video, hearing his voice, and being able to pinpoint all of this information, to pinpoint it to this person standing right in front of him, this is great to see. And all Deku needed to acquire all this information and put it together, he just needed to talk with Gentle just a little bit longer. So the fact that Gentle brought up Imperial Golden Tip Tea, and then Deku, recognizing that type of tea, brought that up in conversation, it piqued Gentle's interest. And so getting to talk with him, getting to hear his voice just a little bit longer, he was able to put the pieces together. That voice was coming from that video I stumbled upon while drinking Imperial Golden Tip Tea. He had this thing planned, this grand scheme that he was going to do, and he was going to celebrate beforehand by acquiring high quality tea. And with all of that information and putting it together, he realized that the person right in front of him was in fact Gentle, and he was trying to infiltrate the culture festival. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have Gentle slowly realizing that Deku is in fact a UA student and needs to get out of this situation as quickly as possible. But as he goes to turn and leave, Deku puts 2 and 2 together. He tells him to stop, puts the supplies down, the gauntlets come up, and he's like, you cannot leave right now. Leave UA out of whatever plans you have. You are not infiltrating UA today. And that is the cliffhanger we are left on with this week's latest chapter, with Deku about to fight Gentle and La Brava, with Gentle telling La Brava, turn the camera this way, things are about to get interesting. And the weird thing about this is that I don't really know who I want to win in this situation, because with all of the setup and buildup we've had with Gentle and La Brava, I like these characters a lot, and in some weird way, I want them to succeed in infiltrating UA. But then I'm also on Deku's side, and stopping them is kind of the right choice, because if Gentle and La Brava successfully infiltrate UA, not only will UA's reputation decline, but Hero Society's view within the public eye is just going to continue to dwindle. So I'm at a stalemate on what I actually want to happen during this altercation. There are many possibilities. Deku could win, Gentle and La Brava can escape, so I am really curious on which side you guys want to win out in the end during this altercation. As it stands for me, I'm kind of at a stalemate. I can see both sides of this, but I am secretly rooting for Gentle and La Brava to get away from Deku, because I just think that would be very interesting just to see where they would go moving forward. But I am also hoping that with the fight that's about to go down in chapter 176, I am hoping that we get to see Gentle and La Brava's quirks at play. We've seen a little bit of Gentle's power, we just don't know exactly what it does, what their names are, and I don't think we've ever seen La Brava's quirk as of yet. So there's a lot of hype right now building for the next chapter, but Deku about to go up against Gentle and La Brava is about to be very, very interesting, and this altercation is going to decide where the arc goes from here. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on this week's latest chapter, but now I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts, what you liked about this chapter, what you didn't like. Are you hyped for this fight about to go down in chapter 176? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below, guys. And if you guys want to talk about My Hero Academia outside of YouTube, feel free to follow me on Twitter, guys. I have a lot of fun tweeting about My Hero Academia and would love to talk with all of you guys. But that's going to be it for my review on 175. Chapter 176 comes out next week. But until then, I'll talk with you guys later. And remember, guys, let's Ultra!